I think I'm live because it says I'm live. So, if anybody's online and you can see me or hear me, if you could just chat with me in the text comments so that I know that this thing is working the way it's supposed to work. I can see there's one person online, Renil. Hi. If you can just let me know if you can hear me well and everything is all right, then we can get started with the session. Saloni, hi. Right, she just says it's working. Perfect. Asha, nice to see you. Perfect. Wonderful. So it looks like all systems are ready to go, and I am ready to go as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session. Most of all to Social Samosa for inviting me. And happy Social Media Day to all. This is a very special day for me, at least. I think that social media has been so central to everything that I have done in my career and in my ability to create networks globally, that it is indeed a very, very special day. Hi Atul, hi Abhilash, hi Jagrut, I see you all. I have as people are kind of coming in, let me begin by saying I have a bit of a complaint about social samosa. And my complaint is that every time I think about social samosa, I get very hungry because I feel like I just have to get hold of a samosa. So I'm expecting, I hope the social samosa team is listening, that I'm going to be expecting a box of samosas later for spending time on a Saturday with you guys. No, but actually I love sharing my insights with everyone. So I think I'll get started. So what we are talking about today is how to build an authentic and powerful personal brand on social media. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of my journey, and I'm going to be taking questions as I go along to see if you would like to know more. So let me begin by sharing with you a little bit about myself. I do work in the area of leadership development. I spend a lot of time with CEOs and CHROs and of late chief marketing officers, which has been very interesting to me because I do a lot of work in corporate storytelling, and I think the whole concept of narrative and storytelling is becoming very, very key to the chief marketing officers. And so I'm spending a lot of time with them, and one is seeing the concept of storytelling really taking off. So I think the reason why I'm here today is because I have been very, very fortunate and blessed to have been tagged as an influencer in my field. And we thought it would be good to talk about how do you build a personal brand and what does it mean to be an influencer on social media. So if you were to look me up, maybe 5-6 years ago, you may not find that I existed because social media was not so prominent. But now I think social media is very, very key to your career, and it is very, very key to your learning and how you learn and share your knowledge with the world, how you connect with people. I think anybody who doesn't pay attention to social media is, I think, living in the 1800s, really, frankly speaking. So what is the concept of a personal brand, right? So when we think about a personal brand, we typically think in terms of the identity of a person, the reputation of a person. But the simplest and the best definition of a personal brand that I have found is that a personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think it was Jeff Bezos who said it. He's the founder of Amazon, as you know. And it's true because it's, right now you're all listening to me. It's very nice to like my updates and all. But after my session is over and, what will the Social Samosa team say to each other? Whether it will be fantastic, we invited her, it was so wonderful. Or will they say, oh my God, please let's not call her next year. That's the real personal brand, okay? It's not what I'm writing on my Twitter bio. It's not what I'm writing on my LinkedIn. Yes, all of it contributes to my personal brand, but it is not my personal brand. My personal brand is a lot more than my profile, description, or, it's especially, nowadays we've seen that people tend to inflate their descriptions so much on social media, right? Everybody is a chief of this and a chief of that, and everybody is a thought leader, and that's fine. But when people interact with you, the way you are interacting with me right now, right? What's the impression you're going to be left with? What will you say about me after the session is over? That is your personal brand, okay? I think that it is important for us to realize that it is that essential quality of who you are that gets amplified through your personal brand. So people ask very often, they're like, okay, there's so many platforms, right? You've got Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Should we be creating a different brand for every platform, right? And I think that's the wrong question to ask. That's like putting the horse behind the cart, or the cart in front of the horse, so to speak. The issue is not whether you should develop a different personal brand for every platform. Personal brand is who you are, and you're not going to be changing that just because you happen to be on Facebook or you happen to be on Twitter. It's the authentic expression of who you are, right? Now that expression might take on a different shade depending on whether you are on Facebook, or depending on whether you are on LinkedIn. Facebook, it's a lot more informal, it's a lot more casual. Instagram, for example, is a lot more formal, and it's a platform that requires an excessive level of focus on the professional contribution that you can make online. Although I'll be honest, I see nowadays sometimes when I log into LinkedIn, I'm like, have I logged into LinkedIn or have I logged into Facebook? I think it's going completely crazy. A lot of cross-platform stuff we are seeing. And now, I think ultimately what's going to happen is that we are already seeing that Facebook has added, a feature which is very similar to Insta Stories. And Twitter at one time had also experimented with, those short videos and all that. So more or less, we will find that the platforms will start adopting features across the board, right? And it really becomes a question of where is your target audience and who do you want to reach out to, right? So if you're looking for an audience that is very design focused and design centered and very much focused on aesthetics, then you want to go to Instagram. You don't want to be on LinkedIn because that's not where that audience is. So instead of asking, should I be developing a personal brand for every different platform, ask yourself, question number one, what is my brand, right? That's the most important part of all, irrespective of platform. And secondly, where is my audience? And you have to go to that audience. Now, Jagriti, this is a really good question Jagriti is asking. She's like, what do you feel about duplication of content across platforms? I personally, and I know there's different schools of thought on this, I personally feel that, the content, even though it may be similar, I think the slant you have to give to it is different. Because the audiences on different platforms are used to content being presented to them differently. So you want to align with that. I don't see an issue with duplication because I find that people more or less tend to gravitate towards a particular platform which they have a preference for. So at least in the field that I am in, I have not found content duplication to be an issue. But certainly, even if you are duplicating your content, it's the way you present the content that needs to be different to align to the spirit of the platform, right? Abhilash is asking, what are the basics of creating a community as opposed to garnering a follower base? Okay, this is a great question. Okay, this is a wonderful question. So thank you for that. I want to back off and talk about this business of community, right? And influencers and all of that. I want you to think about a time in your life, right, when you felt that somebody had an influence on you, right? It could be a school teacher, it could be, a friend, it could be a mentor, I don't know, somebody who had an influence on you. And And chances are, when you think about this person, what you will realize is that the reason they had an influence on you was because they were able to either help you see something differently, or they were able to invest in you, and they made a difference to your life, right? That's why they had an influence on you. So the first thing we need to understand about this concept of influence and follower base and all that is, if you really want to have an influence on anybody, be that a person or a community, you have to focus on how can I make a difference for the other person. I think that a lot of people get it wrong. They get very focused on how do I grow my follower base? How many people have I got following me? Last time I checked, I think I had crossed 10,000 or something, which is very nice. I don't even know how I crossed 10,000, frankly speaking. But of the 10,000 people that are following me, question is, how many of them are feeling positively influenced by what I do? How many of them can I make a difference for? I don't care if I have 5 people following me. But if those 5 people are finding that the content that I'm posting and the ideas that I am sharing is making an impact on them, that's when I think one is having real influence, right? And having influence is different from the amplification of influence, right? And I'm still with your question. I haven't forgotten your question. Having influence is different from amplification of influence, and community really helps you amplify your influence, right? Nobody is an island unto themselves. We are all here to contribute to each other and to network with each other, and we need each other. So community is absolutely essential. So I can assume that, hey, I'm really cool, I have influence. But if there is not a community around me that is helping me amplify that influence, a community that is learning from me and helping me learn, I'm not quite sure what the point of social media is, because it's social first and media next, right? So our focus should always be on the social aspect of it, right? How important is it to reshare? Well, what happened to the question? I think how important is it to reshare other people's content all the time? I think that, nobody should have this excessive sense of importance where they think that their own content is the most important piece of content on the planet. It's not. I think there are a lot of other people who are posting fantastic content, and you want to amplify them just as they amplify you. So why would you not reshare your content? There's a question from Sakshi. She's saying, is having a personal brand different from being an influencer? Yes, absolutely. You can have a personal brand and not be an influencer. But to be an influencer, you have to have a personal brand. Okay, so you start with the concept of, personal brand first. You then bake in the community. A community helps you become an influencer, right? So that's kind of like the 3-layer process of what having influence on social media look like, right? And like I said, ultimately the important part is, what are you giving back to the community is what really makes you an influencer. What should brands look for while roping in influencers for their brands? I think the most important thing to look for is authenticity. It really is authenticity. Because I believe there are some influencers in the market, and it has happened with me. I have had people who have reached out and said, oh, if you post a tweet, we can pay you X, Y, or Z. Or, come join this, blog campaign because, or we will set you up in a database where brands can find you and you can amplify their voice, right? And my point is that I'm not sure that just because you have offered me monetization that I want to support your brand or your voice. And I think that brands should be very, very wary of anyone who's just willing to come on board because you are able to offer them money. Okay? I think authenticity in an influencer is really important. Do they truly believe in what you believe in? Do they truly support what you believe in? Otherwise, this is going to become so commercialized that it's no different from, me sitting there and having a celebrity turn up and say, oh, I use, this product or that product, and that's how that's how I'm so beautiful. Everybody knows that's not true. So how much impact are you going to, you might get attention. You will certainly get attention if you just manage to rope in an influencer and give them money and they say something for you. You will get attention, no doubt. But an influencer has so much more to give than just get attention to your brand. An influencer is able to take their voice and lend it to your brand. That's the real relationship a brand needs to have with an influencer. Not that, can you retweet for me? Can you post for me? Can you just, promote for me? That's a very transactional level of analysis. And I think that as the field of social media matures, we shall be seeing this difference that will come in when it comes to what is the relationship brands have with influencers. And I think brands will also start becoming far more choosy about who they invite. And right now, I think we are all trying to understand how the relationship between influencers and brands is going to work. But the good brands know that they want to have that authentic relationship where the influencer believes in what the brand believes in, and vice versa. So I think that relationship is going to change. Some of the examples of people who have built a really good personal brand out there. I think your community is very familiar with Malhar. I think he does a really great job. He always shows up as a very authentic person, and he creates great content that can be seen by others. I think in my field, people like Prabir Jha and Harleena Sodhi and Gautam Ghosh and Gurpreet Singh and all these people who are on the SHRM influencer list. Ruchi and the entire group out there. It's a very, very authentic group, and they have all been a part of the community that I created. We ran this tweet chat for almost 4 years, and everybody participated in that tweet chat, and we genuinely built that community together. Going back to that question of what's the relationship between an influencer, their brand, and their community, you have to ultimately be able to find your tribe and contribute to them, and they will contribute to you. I think in terms of other brands that other people who are doing a really good job, I think Anand Mahindra is doing a fantastic job being a CEO. He shows up as a very authentic person. He's human. He's human in what he does. So Nirav, I did just answer that question. I think about don't you feel influencers should add some value to content they're sharing instead of just passing? Okay, so it's a slightly different question. Instead of just passing, resharing others. Yes, I think so. I think it's a lazy person's way out to just retweet the other person or post something on LinkedIn without context. Right? They say content is king, but context is queen. So please provide some context. Please provide some insights. I mean, that's what makes you an influencer. That said, have I done the lazy job of just retweeting without a content? All the time. I have done it. But the thing that I will never do, which I think you have to be very careful of, especially as an influencer, is that don't retweet without, or don't repost without knowing what the content is. Okay, you don't comment on it, you don't give context, you're in a rush, you don't have time. That part I can understand. But to post something without, reading it is problematic, because you don't know what is being said in there. So that's one thing I would definitely advise you to stay away from. So content is king, but context is queen. And yes, as an influencer, the more context you can provide, then you are acting as a filter. You're acting as the eyes and ears of the person that you're trying to influence. Yeah, so that was a great question. Please share basic ethics that influencers and people who have a strong personal brand should follow when working with brands. That's such a great question, Mansi. Thank you for bringing it up. I think that it's like I said, as the industry matures, as social media matures, we will be seeing maybe even a formal code of conduct. I mean, I'm not aware if there is one, but I can think that there will be one created. But I think it goes back to what I was saying, which is that be authentic. Don't support things that you don't believe in just for the sake of money. There are far too many examples in the non-social media world where brand endorsements have gone really wrong because neither the brand nor the influencer spent any time in cultivating a relationship or understanding the other person. So I think relationship is where it begins at. And if you're posting things that you are personally not connected or committed to, I think you're misusing your brand as an influencer. I would go to the extent of saying that if you are promoting a brand, you should not have a problem saying it, that I'm in a formal brand relationship with this organization because I believe in them. And I think that's where you're really lending your voice to that brand, where you are consciously making a choice between, well, there are 5 different brands I could associate myself with, but I'm going with this particular brand because it has really made a difference to me. And I think that itself adds to the value of the brand, right? Okay. So yeah, how important is it for someone to find the right influencer? Like I said, it is a question of fit. The fit has to be both complementary and supplementary. What does that mean? Complementary fit and supplementary fit. Complementary fit means that you are aligned in your values and worldview. So complementarity that way. Supplementary fit is when you are able to bring to the brand something that they may not have, right? So for example, if you can give the brand access to a particular audience that they don't have not had access to before, or you can put their brand in front of a group that that they would not naturally have access to, right? I think that's what I mean when I say supplementary fit. The influencers are bringing something of value that only they can uniquely bring to that brand. And so the right influencer is one where you have both complementary as well as supplementary fit. And that is what brands should look for when they're working with an influencer. Is it okay for an influencer to promote any brand other than his or her niche? Yes, again, I think it's a question of alignment. Now, if tomorrow somebody wants me to start coming and promoting, let's see, what would be completely not my niche, right? Some sort of a fintech product, right? Now, if I have used it and it has made a difference to me, maybe I might try and support it. But I'm not going to support it just because they want me as a brand influencer. So somewhere, there has to be that alignment between who you are as a person in real life and who you are as a person online. If there's this massive disconnect between who you are as a person in real life and who you are as a person online, then I think that itself is problematic. So if in real life, I would not be telling my friends about this brand that I don't believe in, or I don't use, or has no value for my friends or my audience or my community, they will probably tune me out. They'll be like, why the hell are you talking about this? But if there is some sort of an alignment, no matter how peripheral, as long as it is adding value to my community, as long as it is bringing a new insight to the audience that follows me, sure, I would look at a broader spectrum than the subject matter that I might be focused on. But that alignment has got to be there. Without alignment, the influencer-brand relationship will not work. It will 100% be a failure. I need to just do a time check because I want to make sure that other people also, I know there are people behind me. So let me just check in. If somebody can let me know from social media exactly how many minutes we have left so I can calibrate my questions, because I'm in a different time zone right now. What is your take on brand trolling on Twitter? Should there be rules engaged to stop misuse of social media platform in maligning brands intentionally? Yeah, I think that Twitter has been taking a stronger stance on the business of trolling on Twitter. Can it be stronger? Absolutely. I think not just on Twitter, but in all platforms in general, because it's an open platform. There are all sorts of people on the platform, and beyond a point, we will have to bring in checks and balances to this business of people trolling other people. If it gets done intentionally and if it gets out of hand, I think that's where this business of community matters. So let me give you an example, okay? So when I first started this IHR chat, right? Very early into the chat, we had somebody who jumped in and started talking all sorts of nonsense and rubbish in the middle of the chat. And I was really taken aback, because this was a community that we were very excited about having this conversation and this brand, and I didn't know how to react, frankly, in the moment with all the trolling that was going on. But I had some very senior members of the community who I was in a back channel conversation at that point in time, who said, focus on the community, not on this person. And before we knew it, there were so many tweets that this person got drowned out, right? So I think that's where the importance of authentic community comes in, when you are trying to interact with your tribe online. But I do think that it is a responsibility of platforms. We saw Mark Zuckerberg in with the US government earlier this year, and I am certain that the governments, as well as the audiences that are on different platforms, will be demanding greater accountability from the CEOs and founders of these platforms to put in place checks and balances that keep social media as a civilized place. Just like we have rules in society, it's not a free-for-all. Social media sometimes can bring out the worst in people because they feel they can be anonymous and that nobody will see them. But I think we will see the platforms themselves kind of becoming a lot more careful with what sort of behavior they will allow. Otherwise, people will, leave the platform. People tend to blame Jagrati. People tend to blame influencers for functional mistakes of the brand. What do you feel about that? Could you elaborate on that a little bit, Jagrati, so I can better get the context of what you're saying? But, I think blaming kind of comes in again when you have not kind of co-created what you were doing from the start, when the rules of engagement are not very clear on what was going on. And if you're really a true influencer and you're getting blamed for something that you're not responsible for, and that's where again the personal brand piece comes in. If my personal brand is one of somebody who has authenticity, is my personal brand of someone who has ethics, if I have a personal brand of someone who has, values that they stand by, then I don't care what any brand is accusing me of, because I am a brand in my own right. And that's what personal branding is all about. So even before you can think, and again, I'm going back to the whole thing. Personal brand, community, amplification of influence, influencer relationships. That's the way it goes. I think you try and short circuit it, it's not going to happen. So, I think that would be my response based on what I understand. All right. Okay, so I think let's look at, in terms of what are the other questions that I've had offline. One was, what are the 5 habits that, you should have if you are looking to be an influencer or you want to build a strong personal brand on social media? I think the first thing that I would say is be yourself. 100%. You have to be yourself. The number of people who I will meet, who I have never met in real life, who I will meet and they'll say, oh, you're exactly offline the way you are online, which by the way means that I can rant and rave and complain a fair deal on social media. Like, you're just like the way you're online. I said, yeah, that's exactly right. I don't feel the need to be any different. I think so. That's my first suggestion is be yourself. And the second is be human. I see some of the accounts, they're so focused on the commercial side of, building their image or brand in terms of what they're posting or what they're saying, that the humanity kind of, goes out of the way they're getting perceived on social media. In fact, I know definitely there are some, some influencers who sometimes can sound very bot-like. In fact, I wonder if the account is being run by a bot, because I don't see any humanity in the conversation that people are having with them. The third rule, I think, which is a good rule to follow, is that you have to, when you're posting content, you need to, I would say 80% of your content should be focused on adding value to your community, whether it's new thoughts or ideas, or amplifying others. And 20% should be you. I think a lot of people are doing I, me, myself. Hey, look, I got this award. Well, that's wonderful. How is that making any difference to your community? I think I tell people every time I get tagged as an influencer, I feel like my responsibility has gone up because now if you're calling me an influencer, I have to be doubly focused on adding even more value, because if I was not an influencer, I could slink into the shadows and not do anything with it. But if I am an influencer, I have a greater responsibility towards my community, towards my audience, towards the brands that I support. So, it's not like you think that, okay, now you're an influencer and now you can kick your heels back and take it easy. No, I think your work just became more difficult. Right? Because you have a certain responsibility if you start playing in that sandbox. What else I think is that you have to be really consistent. You can't really build a personal brand by deciding that, okay, I'm going to engage, for this. I've seen this, actually I've seen this with some people, especially when they have like a book or something coming out, they are all over. They're tweeting, they're posting, the moment the book is gone, they're gone too. Now that's not how brands get built. You have to participate in your communities. You have to support other people's projects, and you have to be an active member of your community, right? And the final part of it is be on brand. Yeah. Choose what your brand is and be on brand and add value through that brand, and choose your hashtags and communities carefully. If your only reason for being on social media is how much I can promote myself and how much I can show the world how cool I am, my suggestion is you don't be on social media, because that's not what social media is about. Beginning with questions of monetization and branding without thinking about what is the value you can add, without thinking about how you can be engaging communities in a human manner, would be the wrong place to begin, right? So, all right, I think my time is up. I want to make sure that others get to spend time with you and add value to you. If you'd like to stay in touch, then I'm sure you'll be able to find me very easily on Twitter and LinkedIn and all those other places. Just let me know that you were on the live stream so that I know where we got connected. So thanks very much again to Social Samosa team for inviting me. I wish everybody a fantastic social media day ahead and lots of fantastic learning from the amazing sessions that are coming up. Thanks for your time.